Hello, lovely people, and welcome to episode 36 of the 21 and Sensory podcast with me, Emily. So, how's everyone doing? In this episode, it's just me, and I thought it might be nice to do a little catch-up, as the last podcast episode I did was a bonus podcast episode. So that was the last one I did on my own, and that was in December 2020, and it's now pretty much May. So I hope you've been enjoying my special guest episodes. It's been so much fun to chat to so many different people, and I think the audio format works really well, like for me, and I think people enjoy listening to them. I definitely still get nervous to record, but I think like not recording with video really helps for me for some reason. Anyway, it would mean a lot if you do enjoy my podcast and you use the Apple Podcast app to listen, if you could leave me a little review. So you can just like leave a little review within the app. And even if you just like rate it like a star rating, that would be amazing. So I'll also be sure to read them out. So I had a lovely one recently from Disturbed232 in March, who gave me 5 stars, which is so kind. Thank you. And they said, a lovely podcast. And then underneath they put, I love this podcast. I found it to be very relatable as well as very calming and relaxing. So thank you so much. That's so kind. Of you, whoever you are. I really appreciate your review. Also, I wanted to say that there's always a Google form link in my show notes. So if you would like to be a guest on my podcast, feel free to fill that in, and I get emailed every time the form gets filled in. Just bear in mind, I do get quite a few requests for like guests to be on, which is like super lovely, and I really appreciate it. But just bear in mind, it's literally just me who like produces, records, and edits this podcast, and I do, all my like illustration stuff as well. It's just me, so I can't have everyone on, but I try and get as many people as physically possible on. I've also recently had a lot more kind of people transferring over from my TikTok and my YouTube channel, saying that they've come over to listen to my podcast as they enjoy listening to my voice. And I've had people saying that they enjoy listening to this podcast before bed because it's super soothing, which is really nice of like people to say. I'm like, if only I could get an audiobook like voiceover gig or like deal, that would be amazing. Or like, I've always thought it'd be really cool to be like a voiceover person on the Headspace app, because I use that app and they have some amazing different sessions you can listen to, and especially like the nighttime ones are like super soothing. Anyway, that would be so cool. Sorry, I'm rambling. Okay, so on today's episode, I'm going to be chatting about the feedback that I've had from my last episode with my sister, what I've generally just kind of been up to recently. Also, some exciting news. I have been asked to illustrate a real-life actual book, so I'll talk a little bit more about that, and why my dog has been driving me absolutely crazy. As well as some sort of life bits and pieces. This is really just a kind of podcast with just me, just to update everyone, and I quite like to, as much as I like interviewing people, I do enjoy doing like just podcasts where it's just like me like chatting. I feel like I'm chatting to you guys. I know you can't respond, but feel free to DM me if anything like resonates with you or you want to chat. But yeah, let's get into the podcast. Okay, so I had some really nice feedback from my podcast episode with my sister. I had a few messages of people just saying that it was really interesting. I also had a couple of messages where people thought that my sister sounded very similar to me and I was talking to myself, which I think I actually said in the podcast episode. I was like, people are going to think I'm talking to myself. People said that they were eating popcorn while they listened to it, or they were building Lego, which was really cool. I'm always like interested to hear how like people listen to podcasts and what they're like up to when they listen to it. Let me have a look. I've done some like screenshots of like nice messages I got. Someone said, you and your sister are hilarious, absolutely joyful, you defo need her on again. So that's really nice. I'm sure my sister would be more than happy to come back on to the podcast and have a chat. Also had someone else who said that they just listened to the podcast that we did together and they loved it, and that they found the chat that we had about Senkos really interesting. So Senko stands for special like needs coordinators, so they're like within schools, and my sister wants to become a Senko. So yeah, I think we definitely like had quite an interesting chat about that and like her like career progression to maybe becoming one. So if you haven't listened to the podcast already, go have a listen. So I had some really nice feedback. It was really nice to chat to my sister. It was weird like to do it in a formal way because like usually I just like chat to her on FaceTime. My sister's now back at school with her class, and she's much like preferring teaching in person, obviously, to over Google Classroom. She was saying how like difficult that was in the podcast, and how like it's really difficult to manage behaviour and stuff like that. So yes, she's definitely enjoying her job. But yeah, let me know if you think I should have her back on, and thanks so much for the continued like messages on people enjoying the episode. So I'm going to tell you what I've been up to recently. You may or may not be interested in this, but yeah, if you're here for the rambles, here we go. So recently I've been up to some freelance work. So if you weren't already aware, I currently have the privilege of working on an Oxford University project called Sensory Street. So Sensory Street is going to be like an immersive experience. So I'm just going to read out the kind of project description. So, autistic individuals often experience sensory symptoms like discomfort under fluorescent lights or heightened sensitivity to sounds. Sensory processing differences are part of what make the world disabling for autistic people, impact family life, education, and mental health. While members of the autism community are all too aware of the importance of sensory processing differences, people without autism-specific training or expertise may be unaware of the effects that sensory processing differences have on daily life. In this project, we will be working with autistic people to create an immersive experience to inform those who come into day-to-day contact with autistic people, for example, hairdressers, shopkeepers, about sensory processing differences. Shops, hairdressing salons, and leisure places will be transformed into sensory experiences based on descriptions of difficulties faced by autistic individuals. To do this, we will first work with autistic individuals to hear which aspects of different environments most affect them and which audiences they would most like to be informed about their sensory needs. So yeah, that's a little bit about the project. And then, so I'm on the project team. So the project is run by Dr. Catherine Manning, and she's a lecturer at the School of Psychology and Clinical Language Sciences at the University of Reading, and her research focuses on the development of visual perception through childhood and how perception is altered in neurodevelopmental conditions. She's also a Wellcome Trust-funded researcher at Oxford University, so she's looking into how autistic children process visual information differently to children without autism. And then we've also got Dr. Brett Heisman, and he is a senior lecturer at the School of Education, Language and Psychology at York St John University. His research interests include investigating enabling environments for autistic people through society, culture and technology. And then the next person you might have heard of, so Becky Liddon, who is the founder of Sensory Spectacle. So I've worked with Becky quite a bit in the past, and she's actually the person who introduced me to the project and got me on the project team. So after studying a master's, Becky started looking at the autistic like sensory world and began creating immersive learning environments to make like better awareness of SPD to society. So yeah, Becky's on the project team. And then we also have another Catherine, who is a children's specialist speech and language therapist, and she's the research and engagement officer in the experimental psychology department at the University of Oxford. So that's Catherine Willie. We also have Jess Starnes, who is an artist, and she focuses on like disability and neurodiversity. She completed her Inclusive Arts Practice MA at the University of Brighton, and she is the founder of Dyspraxic Me, which is the charity for dyspraxic young people. And then there is me. So I am the autistic person on the project team, which I think is really important. They obviously wanted to have an autistic person on the team, and also someone who has that kind of sensory knowledge. So obviously I've been diagnosed with sensory processing disorder and autism, so I think they think that I'm the ideal sort of person, hopefully, to like kind of give them that insight into just like all the different things as we go along through the project. So yeah, I'm really excited. We've got like a really great team together, and hopefully we'll be able to get like started. We also have an Instagram, a Twitter, a Facebook page, and a website too as well. So I'll pop them in the show notes. It's literally just at Sensory Street. So yeah, go check us out, follow our work. We're going to be like talking to lots of autistic people, and it'd be great to get as many people as possible involved. So keep an eye out for how, you know, you can get to be a part of this project. I also wanted to discuss another freelance thing that I've been involved in. So I'm super excited because I have been asked to illustrate a real life book. Like a book. Like, what even? I'm so excited. So it's all been like officially finalised, and I'm like probably like signed on. A bit of a background behind this is that Lydia, so she's at journo_Lydia on Instagram. Her full name's Lydia Wilkins. She is a like freelance journalist and like a newsletter writer, and she has recently signed with Jessica Kingsley Publishers to like write a book, and the book is going to be called the Autism Friendly Cookbook, and it's due out next year, so 2022. And I thought I'd just kind of give you a bit of a background to it. So the idea started, Lydia had this sort of idea in response to a PIP, like mandatory reconsideration she was going through, which left her in the position to go to a tribunal. And following this experience in the last like lockdown, it had occurred to her that there's like kind of like a cookery knowledge gap when it comes to like actually autistic individuals. And to her, she said it's really striking how many times she's heard, I don't know how to cook, or like people relying on pre-prepared food. And like with that in mind, she wanted to make the Autism Friendly Cookbook, which kind of aims to get around this. So accessibility information is going to be included, and she's going to be compiling recipes by autistic people, and they're going to be catalogued by like energy levels, so using like the spoon metric. So I don't know if you've heard of like people saying like they're running low on spoons, so that's the like spoon kind of metric, and she's going to cross-reference them with like social occasions. She's looking to interview autistic people about everything cookery sort of based, so it could be like more accessible to them, like how you find cooking, and it in terms of being kind of, I don't know, how you find the experience, as well as like including people's recipes with like full credit. So if you want to be involved in the book, which is a super exciting prospect, you can contact Lydia on her Instagram. I will leave that in the show notes. It's at journo_Lydia, but I'll leave it so you can just click on the link. So yeah, and it's really exciting to be actually involved in a real book and be able to work with the publishers and Lydia on her idea. And to me, it's, you know, I didn't just say yes because it's a book, which is obviously exciting. I said yes because I love the entire concept, like the fact that it's like an actual cookbook based around autistic people. Like, I struggle with cooking, and this is something I want to talk about now. Cooking for me is an interesting concept, and it's something I've been talking to Lydia about as well. I very much find cooking difficult in terms of following recipes and understanding like written recipes. I don't know, I obviously have processing difficulties, and I'm dyslexic, which doesn't help, and I also have dyscalculia, so I find like measuring stuff and scales and like the whole kind of like knowing how much of an ingredient you need and understanding like the difference between like measuring implements and stuff, like there's so much to consider. And I'm very much someone who, like, if I'm following a recipe, I'll get like all the ingredients out first so that I can like visually see them. Like, I can't do it as I go. And also I'm someone that, in terms of food, which I've talked about before, I stick to a lot of safe foods. I don't venture out particularly in terms of trying new foods. I stick to very bland foods. I find like spicy food or like food with any sort of like seasoning very difficult to manage. And I also have a lot of like texture-based issues. So I'm a vegetarian, and the main reason for that is that I do not like the texture of meat at all. I really struggle with the sensation and the texture of meat in my mouth, so I don't eat meat. And I think a lot of people find this quite like, I don't know, a different concept, because a lot of people now are vegetarian or vegan, etc. And obviously there's like loads of different reasons for it, but you usually don't hear about it because it's like a texture-based thing. So yeah, I have a lot of like different, I don't know, quirks when it comes to like cooking, and I would like to eat the same thing every day. Obviously that wouldn't be great in terms of, you know, a balanced diet. I am quite good in terms of like eating fruit and veg, so that's good. But obviously I don't really get that much protein because I struggle with meat. I struggle with like meat substitutes. So yeah, I'm probably not getting enough protein. But yeah, sorry, that was a massive like tangent. I just wanted to explain that, you know, I feel like it's really important to be part of this book because it's something that's quite like, I don't know, something I can really relate to, and something I genuinely struggle with. And the fact that this cookbook is like aimed specifically at autistic people, and that like Lydia really understands the whole like concept behind, like, you know, you might just want a meal that you can make quickly that doesn't require a lot of energy. So as she said, like about the whole spoon metric, like you might be like, you know, coming in from work or something like that, and you just want a really quick like balanced meal. Or you might actually have more time and think, oh, actually I have a bit more energy, I could put in a bit more like prep time into something. And I think Lydia's considering all this. So yeah, it's going to be a really like interesting book to read, hopefully. And hopefully with my visuals, it will be a nice book to look at as well. Yeah, so I really appreciate Lydia asking me, and I'm really excited to get working on it. I think she's still working on the manuscript, obviously. So yeah, it's exciting to like collaborate with someone on a book, and yeah, hopefully I'll be able to give you guys some more updates as we go. But definitely follow Lydia on Instagram. She's been posting lots to her stories about like updates with the manuscript and how you can get involved. As I said, I'll pop her Instagram thing in the show notes. Yeah, exciting times. Okay, so I guess those were like some freelance updates. I'm kind of like continuing to work with like different brands on and off and stuff, and like people, like I've been getting emails and people have been like, as an influencer, you know, such and such, and I'm like, whoa, I'm an influencer? I'm not an influencer, I'm just Emily. I find it really weird, like when people reach out to me like via email, and I think maybe it's like my followers, like follow account, that people like assume that I'm like an influencer, but really I'm just Emily, and I'm sharing my tips and tricks online and illustrating stuff. And okay, I like to think I'm a podcaster. I mean, you know, I'm this many episodes into a podcast of my own. I would sum myself up as a designer, an illustrator, and a podcaster, but maybe not an influencer. I feel like that's a funny term almost. But anyway, see, I really ramble. But hopefully you're here for this rambliness in the form of a podcast. So yeah, I thought I'd do some more kind of lifey sort of updates. So obviously that was like freelance stuff. So in terms of life stuff, I am still working from home. I'm a graphic designer full-time, so I work 9 till 5 during the week. My work has been a bit quiet, so I found that really difficult because I really enjoy the routine of work, and I enjoy having like a 9 till 5 where I'm busy, but for the past like month or so it's been really quiet. Obviously I'm really like appreciative that I still have a job and that I wasn't furloughed during the pandemic, so I am really grateful to obviously still be working, but I just find that it's not taking up my day like it used to, which I'm finding difficult. And I think it's just, we get this, like in my company we get like these kind of peaks and troughs of like being busy and not being busy, and there's like no in between, which I find a bit difficult. I think I've explained before that my employers don't know I'm autistic. My manager does, but my HR etc. don't know that I'm autistic. So I think, I don't know, I've thought about recently looking for another job that would be remote, because I'm really, really enjoying working remote and having my own environment to work in. And I think I would definitely be upfront about being autistic and having dyslexia. My employers don't actually know I'm dyslexic. But yeah, I've been at my company for almost 4 years now, and I think I'm just starting to be a bit I need more of a routine, more of a work routine, to know what's happening and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm obviously really grateful to still be working, and I don't know, I really don't want to go back into an open plan office. Obviously, I think they'll start to potentially want me to do that, maybe a little bit later on in the year, or in a couple of months' time or something. And I can't go back into an open plan office, not after being remote for so long. I can't. How the hell am I going to do that? I mean, I'm struggling as it is to get back out in the world, and I'm just I'm really sensitive to everything. I think maybe a lot of you might relate to this, that I don't know, before the pandemic we were almost a little bit more desensitized to stuff out in the world, but because we've been almost out of practice and been at home more and been slightly more isolated, that now going back out into the world, everything is so much noisier and so much louder. Especially talking to my brother, he really struggles with loud noises, and he has been wearing his ear defenders out constantly because he just cannot deal with the level of noise. Even just cars passing him by, if we're on a walk, he cannot deal with it, and he cannot process that noise. And I can totally relate. I think I've mentioned in a previous podcast, but if not, my brother is autistic, and he has FASD, which stands for fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. We adopted him when he was age 2. I'm just giving you a little bit of background, and I was actually recently on a podcast to do with FASD. It was called Spotlight on FASD. I'll try and link it down below in the show notes. So yeah, my brother struggles with sort of the same sort of sensory stuff as I do. He's obviously autistic, so am I, but he has the kind of FASD on top of that, so his issues are slightly different to me, and he is he is non-verbal, I would say, most of the time. So he struggles to kind of, I don't know, sort of get across to us as a family how he is coping and struggling with stuff. But yeah, we can both relate to how difficult it is to get back out into the world, and in terms of noise, how just tricky it is to navigate the world. Yeah, so that was a bit about me and my family and work. Other than that, what have I been up to really? I've been trying to get back out and stuff. I've been trying to go on runs, and when I say runs, I mean walking, running, intervals to build it up. I'm very much someone that believes that you can walk on a run and it still counts as a run. So I think everyone should have that mentality. You can walk whilst you're out for a run, to catch your breath. That's totally okay. I've also been doing lots of workouts and stuff, HIIT workouts, which is high intensity interval training workouts. So you might have heard of this YouTuber, but Chloe Ting, she does a lot of different workout videos, and I've been doing those, which I've been finding really good. I definitely feel more tired after doing them, which is better in terms of sleep and stuff. And I've done a few of her programs now, and they're all free, they're all on her YouTube, and I know there's loads of different fitness YouTubers who do them, but I just kind of stumbled across her stuff and have stuck with it. yeah, I'm not the most coordinated person in the world, so I do struggle when I'm like watching her videos and trying to like coordinate my left and rights, which is obviously a dyslexic thing. So I do end up just, I don't know, having to watch her do the whole kind of workout and then like rewinding and then doing it myself. But now I've gotten used to her workouts and like what exercises are like coming up, I can do them. So yeah, that's kind of been keeping me busy. Yes, so I want to talk about my dog. So, oh God, it's a whole nightmare. So he's obviously been keeping me busy because I can like take him out for walks and stuff, and I really enjoy taking him out for long walks. He's a beagle. He's very much like a hound dog. He's very like nose driven and is essentially a small Hoover / vacuum cleaner. He just eats anything and everything. He's a bit of a nightmare. Anyway, at the moment, he has like, he's getting old. He's almost 15 and he's quite like lumpy. I think it's just like an old like dog thing where they get a little bit kind of like, I don't know, they have like, not like tumours, but like fatty lumps. It's just like a kind of, when they get a bit older, it's something that happens, I think, from what I'm aware of. So yeah, he's been struggling with like, he's had like a couple of surgeries in the past to remove like larger fatty lumps. Like they're all like benign, but they kind of like get in the way. And recently he's been struggling with one on the side of his stomach. And oh my God, he's an absolute nightmare. So we've had to put a cone on him, which we call the cone of shame, because obviously it, you know, the kind of lump spot thing on his side needs to get better. And he's been an absolute nightmare. You'd think he was a puppy because he squeals. Like, I'm going to insert a clip and I'll pop it in a bit. But he just like squeals and squeals and squeals. And it's so high pitched. And me and my brother especially have been losing the will to live. Obviously my parents have as well. But oh my God, he's obviously in pain, and I totally, well, I can't almost appreciate it because the level of noise is so bad. Obviously he's in pain and he's trying not to lick the spot, which is probably itchy, etc. But oh my God, it's been driving us mad, and it's been like 2 or 3 weeks of him just like squealing, and to the extent where my brother's been wearing his ear defenders inside and he's offered me an extra pair of his. I've been wearing my Sony wireless like noise cancelling headphones, so I'm walking around with those. My brother's walking around with ear defenders, and it's just a whole thing. So I'm going to insert a little like squealy section of my dog because I need people to appreciate how squealy he is. I'll turn it down a bit so it won't be like full volume and freak you all out. So here's the clip. So yeah, do you see what I mean? It's like this 24/7. And like we've tried to explain to the vet the pure pain he's putting us through, and it's so painful. And so we're gonna probably have to go back to the vet. And the vets is so expensive. So yeah, that's something I've been dealing with at the moment, and that's been definitely a sensory thing in itself because I cannot deal with noise, and like noise particularly totally changes my mood. Totally. Like I become so irritable and like evil, which is not in my nature at all. Like I'm not someone that gets particularly like angry. Okay, I get frustrated at stuff, but oh my God, it's just been like grating on us. So yeah, that's a current thing to be dealing with, and obviously because like I'm working from home, I can't really get away from the noise particularly. He's fine though when you take him out for a walk, which is really annoying. Like he stops squealing, so he's obviously not in like 24/7 pain. It's just like he can't distract himself. So yeah, that's a thing. Okay, so other stuff I want to talk about, I guess. At the moment I am trying to come off some medication. Woohoo! Which is a whole process, obviously. So I've been kind of doing that over the past few months now. So it's actually been good to do it like whilst I've been at home and working remote and stuff. So I'm trying to come off an antidepressant and an antipsychotic. Basically, I'd been on this particular antidepressant since I was 16, and it had never been reviewed by any doctors. So just for context, I'm 26, almost 27. So I'd been on one antidepressant for 10 years, and I've also been on another antipsychotic almost to like top up the antidepressant for like 2 or 3 years. So when I was 16, I was having some mental health issues, and then a few years ago, I was also having some more mental health issues, and basically I just ended up sat on this antidepressant and this antipsychotic, and I didn't really think that much of it, but then a while back I had a consultant who said, why are you on these things? I was like, well, for these mental health reasons. He was like, okay, that's quite, the antipsychotic, you shouldn't really be on it for that long, and it's like, a considerable-ish dose. And I was like, okay. And I went to my GP and was like, look, I've been on this medication for 10 years, and I've been on this other medication for a few years, and it's never really been reviewed, and I think maybe now that I'm in a better place, it might be good to try and like come off them. And they were like, okay, fine. And they said like how I could, but didn't really offer me any like ongoing support. They said, you can like taper down like this, and like told me the milligrams to come down. But obviously, like, I'm autistic, I need a bit more kind of, not intervention, but like ongoing support, if that makes sense. So I struggled a bit. I tried to come off one of them and struggled, and I started experiencing like a lot of like disassociation. So I was having like these weird like flashes of a few seconds where I felt like I was watching myself do things. So I'd be like brushing my teeth and I could like see myself doing it. It was really weird. And I started to get it when I was driving. So I was like, right, I'm going to talk to my GP again, because obviously this isn't good. So I explained to them that I was struggling a bit to come off stuff, and they referred me, they said they'd try and refer me to like a different like GP team that like work within the NHS, but I think they kind of help people like with like ongoing stuff. So I think this is just, I've been talking to another GP at like a different sort of practice, but who specialises in like helping people, I think, in terms of medication. So every 6 to 8 weeks I have a telephone appointment, and I realise that doesn't sound like a lot of support, but actually it's been really helpful. I'm able to talk to this guy and be like, look, this is what I'm struggling with, or help, I don't know how to come down, like, and also understanding what like the tablets come down in. So for example, like the smallest of one of the medications I can get is 20 milligrams, and it's not like a splittable tablet, it's like a filled like capsule. So he was explaining that, I might find it difficult to come down once I get down to 20 milligrams to get to 0, because obviously that's quite a jump. And it's stuff like that I didn't realise, like, it's really difficult to come off antidepressants and antipsychotics, and some in particular. And this GP guy has said to me, look, you're on one of the ones that can be really difficult to come off, and you've been sat on it for 10 years. And I was like, great. So I have managed to come down to less than half of my antidepressant and half of my antipsychotic, which is huge for me. Huge. I've been trying really hard, and it's been really difficult. I've had side effects. I struggled initially because I think I jumped down too much off one of them, and I started really struggling with sleep, and I started struggling with like shaky legs at night. It was really weird. And then I realised that actually the antipsychotic I was taking it at like 10 p.m. with the rest of my medication. I'm on some other medications as well. So I usually take them all before bed. But I realised that it wasn't like kicking in particularly well, so I wasn't sleeping until like 3 a.m. So now I take that way earlier. I take it at like 5 o'clock each day. And that has really been helping, because then it almost like kicks in time for bed. and the GP guy that I was talking to, he switched me to a modified release type of medication. So before I wasn't on that, and it would give me like a hit of medicine. He was saying he would give me like that dose then and there, whereas now like a modified release, it does it over like the course of a day, I think was what he was saying. You might need to like read up about modified release medication anyway. So I think it was like difficult in that respect, because I was going on to a different type of release of medication, so I wasn't getting that like dump of like medicine before bed, if that makes sense. There's so much to medication, it's crazy. So yeah, that's something I've been doing really, really slowly, and I've not put any pressure on myself in terms of like, you know, being like, I need to be off it by this point. And also like I think I am gonna have to maybe like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to come off them all like completely, because obviously I had mental health issues when I was 16, and I had them again a few years ago, and you know, I was put on them for a reason. I totally appreciate that. Like, you know, I'm not blaming my GP that, you know, I was put on them. I think I blame them slightly for not telling me how hard they are to come off, and for not really checking in on me. But obviously, you know, it's the NHS, they're busy, I get it. It's been a whole thing, and like everyone around me has been really supportive of it, and like it's really difficult to come off medication, and I don't think that's ever instilled in you. Like when you get put on stuff, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this, not just for like, you know, mental health reasons, when you get put on stuff maybe for like pain and stuff like that, it's so difficult to come back off it. It's like you just don't realise how much of an effect it's having on you. And obviously, because I've been on one of these medications for 10 years, I have absolutely no idea what it feels like to not be on it anymore, because I've been on it so long, I don't know what it is or isn't doing. So yeah, it's a lot to do, I think, and it's been difficult, it's been rough, because I've realised how much like they've helped, like the antidepressant and the antipsychotic have like, you know, stabilised my mood. And I think the GP guy says that I need to stay potentially on you know, a lower dose of them, just to keep my mood stable. You know, I don't want to go back to having those mental health issues and being in that sort of dark place, because I've been there before and it is horrible. So yeah, it's definitely been an interesting exercise, and I'm glad that I've been doing it, and I feel so proud of myself that I'm on like so much less than I was before. And I've definitely noticed, like, not as a side effect, but as a kind of energy thing. Like I was saying to my mum, like I used to sleep in so much, and at work I would be falling asleep at my desk at like 11 a.m, whereas now I wake up before 9 every day, and I am like wide awake, ready to do like whatever the day kind of has for me, kind of thing, which is really odd. And I'm definitely way more like buzzy and like not hyper, but like I have way more energy, and I'm way more like, I don't know, like just awake, and like I have more energy, which is nice. I definitely still like struggle with the like dissociation stuff. It's not as bad as it was, which is really nice. And I definitely sympathise with anyone else who struggles with like dissociative episodes or like depersonalisation, because it's really scary to not, I don't know, be yourself and not see yourself as you usually would, and it's very odd. So I definitely, you know, have an appreciation for how scary that can be, and it's all about taking things slow, especially in terms of coming off medication. You have to do it so slowly, and you have to taper off so like slowly. And I've done it over like weeks and months, and yeah, if anyone else is going through this, like feel free to message me. I think I've talked about like medication before, and like my struggle to find the right medication, and now that I've obviously found it and been on it for years, and now I'm like, I'm feeling, you know, like maybe I should come off it a little bit. It's hard, and especially because I've had like lots of side effects from being on them. I'm hoping that maybe once I come off them, I'll stop having those. It's very confusing. I'm on other medication to like almost stop the side effects. So yeah, maybe I'll be able to come off that. Like the whole like thing with me and medications, it's so difficult because I don't know what's interacting with what and what is causing what. So until I come off stuff, I won't realise. So yeah. That again, I'm very sorry, was a big ramble on medications, but it's something that I've been dealing with over the past few months, and I feel very lucky to be in the position to be able to do it, and to have been able to work from home and been able to do it really slowly and in my own environment, because I wouldn't have been able to do it whilst I was like, you know, out working and stuff, because I don't know, there's such a lot of like, you know, unknowns with coming off stuff, and it's been nice to do it in my own home, if that makes sense. Yeah, I hope you potentially found that interesting. It's just something I've been going through, and I think people appreciate when I'm open and honest and I share the stuff that I'm going through. Yeah, so let me know how you guys are doing, and you know what you've been up to, and I hope someone found this interesting. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I want to talk about. I'm having a look at my notes. I don't write a script, I just kind of write like, I don't know, I just like dump a load of like text in a like Evernote document. I'm like, these are the things I kind of want to talk about. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that, I don't know, have I been struggling with, or this is like a one-sided therapy session almost at this point, where I'm like, what am I struggling with? What could I chat about? I think like I talked about it previously, like I'm a bit nervous to get back out in the world again, and I'm sure so many people are feeling this, like especially if like you're like clinically vulnerable and you've been shielding, or even from a mental health perspective, a bit like me, or a sensory perspective. It's really scary that the world's opening back up, and I know so many people are talking about this at the moment, and I know that a lot of people like talk about it on like Twitter and stuff and Instagram. I've seen it a lot, like people are going back to like normal, and like offices are reopening, and it's like like we've had all these like, I think a lot of disabled people have said like, you know, we finally almost like tried a bit of like, you know, remote working, and people have gotten used to it and stuff, and like it's been great, like it's been like a great accommodation for disabled people. And now that the world is opening back up, like we're worried that it's going to go back to how it was. And actually like remote working for me and for so many people works so much better, and just to cut the commute and cut the social interaction for me. I mean, obviously I still have video calls and they're awkward because I'm awkward, but it works for so many people, and it's a difficult thing to think about going back to normal, or what people are like the new normal, and it's like, what even is that? we don't know what we're going back to, and people are like rushing out to pubs and wanting to get back to how it was, and so many of us are like, can we not? Yeah, it's really tricky, and I really feel for everyone who's going back to school and college and uni. Like, it's going to be so different, and if you have gone back to school, college, uni, you know, your workplace, like, well done, because that must have been so difficult, and I've seen so many people documenting it online. Like, I don't know how you are managing to wear a mask all the time, like obviously like a lot of us are exempt from wearing masks, but we still wear them, and they're such a sensory thing to deal with. So you should be so proud of going back and trying and doing your best, and, you know, muddling along through what, you know, all these organisations don't really know what's gonna happen. You know, especially like schools and colleges, you know, they're just like trying to get through it, and like, I've spoken to so many people about like how they're finding it, and like even for like my cousin, she's in her GCSE year, and like she doesn't know what's coming up. Like she doesn't, obviously she's not having exams, and it's going to be like coursework, but it's like thrown on her like all the time. And they've said that they've cancelled her prom, and like that's a huge thing to a 16 like year old. Like prom for like, you know, that age group is such a big thing in terms of like a milestone and something to look forward to after your exams. And it's a real like, not like coming of age thing, but like it is a real milestone to be like, you know, this is my like leavers prom, this is my like, you know, chance to see my friends all dressed up and my teachers all dressed up and stuff. And I feel so bad for her because she won't have that. And like a really like good thing that my mum was saying is that my auntie and her friends have all said like to my cousin and her friends that they should go from dress shopping anyway, which I think is brilliant. Like, you know, people in shops don't know that you're not having a prom. Like, she should definitely still have that experience of going like dress shopping. Okay, I'm saying this when actually I didn't even go to my year 11 prom. Funny story, I actually went and helped like set up for my prom, and then on the evening decided that actually I didn't want to go, and I just didn't go. But for most people, prom is something to look forward to, and I think it's really important that she still has that experience with her friends, and she still goes dress shopping, and she still gets to try on stuff, because it is really important to celebrate, you know, not just the little things in life, but, you know, doing your GCSEs it's a big thing. And I think I spoke about it with my sister on the previous podcast, is that and nothing is quite as stressful as your exam years. Like, for me, I have 11 GCSEs, and I said to her, you know, like, I have them for really no reason. You know, my sister got to where she was in her life with 5 GCSEs, and she's a primary school teacher now, and I have 11. And I'm a graphic designer. I didn't need 11, I just needed 5. I just needed the basic maths, English, and a couple of others. Like, it's madness. Anyway, yeah, so getting back out in the world, it's going to be interesting, right? And I totally relate and sympathise and appreciate how difficult it is, and how annoying it is that other people are doing it without us, almost. Like, I don't know, social media, I've talked about it before so much. Like, it is the thief of joy, and comparison is you can't not compare yourself, I think. And yeah, I just think everyone's life online is brilliant, and it's, you know, they're doing their very best. But actually, one of the reasons I love my Instagram account, my 21 Sensory, is that people show what life really is like. If you're autistic, or you have sensory issues, or you're neurodivergent, like, it's so great to see, and this sounds really bad, but it's so great to see other people like me out there struggling with the same things and going through the same things, and the little things that are difficult. And I much prefer like this like outlook on life to, you know, having a personal Instagram with like people from secondary school and like old workplaces and stuff, and seeing them just doing their best all the time, when actually life isn't like that. Life isn't straightforward. Life isn't brilliant all the time. Like, it's rarely brilliant, you know. It's I don't know, people. I'm going on a bit, but these are just all the things that are on my mind at the moment, you know. I have the wins. I have the, like, you know, the freelance stuff that I get asked to do, which is incredible. And then I have the more difficult stuff, like coming off medication and trying to get back out into the world and talking to people and interacting again. And oh my God, eye contact. I can't. It's so difficult to look at people and to know how long to look at people for. Like, these are all the things that I didn't realise. And like my GP, the one that I got referred to, saying like, you know, obviously you had these mental health issues when you were 16, and now, you know, a few years later as well, and now you're 26, and it must be so helpful to know that you're autistic. And I was like, yes, like, you know, all through my teenage years I had absolutely no idea, and I just felt so different and odd and a misfit and just like a complete alien on this kind of planet. And I know so many other girls and guys as well have experienced this, but you know, especially for females as well, like, we're just so underdiagnosed and missed and misdiagnosed. I've heard from so many amazing women, and they've had every other diagnosis apart from autism and finally got to their autism diagnosis. And I've heard from people ranging from, you know, people who have been diagnosed in their early childhood, like 3 or 4, and they don't remember it and they wish they could remember their diagnosis, all the way to people in their 40s, 50s, 60s just being diagnosed. I cannot imagine how difficult it must have been to have gotten through 50 or 60 years of your life not knowing or feeling just that little bit different. And it's amazing to hear from these people, and I just think they're incredible for having not soldiered on, but having carried on through it all, knowing that they're, you know, they have these struggles and they're different and they didn't know why. Like, isn't that amazing to have gone through 50 or 60 years of your life and only now know that, oh, I'm autistic? I just think, I mean, for me, knowing at the age of 25, that was long enough to wait. You know, and I wasn't even rushing for a diagnosis. You know, I was out of education. I didn't need, you know, that kind of backup of diagnosis for support at uni and stuff like that. And 25 was late enough in life to know. And these people didn't know for so long, and it honestly baffles me. But we're getting there. We're making steps in the right direction, I think, in terms of coming round to the fact that, yes, women are autistic too. So hopefully we'll see more of that in years to come. People, life, what is this? But yeah, people keep asking me, like, how am I? And honestly, I'm good. Like, okay, there's lots of stuff that goes on in my life and everyone's life. Like, everyone's dealing with stuff, but we're all just muddling through, and none of us really know what we're doing. Let's be honest. Like, so many people make out that they know what they're doing, but I think everyone's muddling through it, and everyone's, I don't know, like, I definitely suffer with, like, the whole imposter syndrome kind of thing, and I think a lot of people do. Like, you can't know everything. Like, example from me, I'm a graphic designer. I can't know everything about graphic design. I can't know everything about the software. I regularly Google stuff because I've either completely forgotten how to do something or I don't know how to do it in the first place. And you can't ever know everything there is to know about, you know, even like a special interest, even like, you know, you're always learning. So yeah, I think I'm going to do a moral of the story. A moral of this podcast is to cut yourself some slack, be kind to yourself, give yourself, I don't know, not a pat on the back. I hate that expression because for me, I can feel myself being patted on the back and that freaks me out. But try and be kind to yourself, because last year, like, you have all been through so much, and you have existed through a pandemic and you have survived a pandemic. Like, that's huge in itself, let alone any other things you have achieved. Like, we've all worked, we've all existed, we've all survived, we've all carried on despite a pandemic, and I think that's huge. You know, we should be obviously thankful, definitely, but just well done, because even that was difficult. But yeah, be kind to yourself. I think it's really important. One other thing I want to talk about, and I don't really I just kind of wanted to chat about it openly, was Patreon. So you might have heard of it. It's like a lot of like what a lot of like content creators use in terms of like, I don't know, like being subscribed to someone and getting like exclusive content from them. And I've kind of like toyed with the idea a lot. I don't know whether it's something I want to do or not, and I don't know like how I feel about potentially like charging people monthly for like more content from me. But I thought it'd be cool, like if I did do it. So I'll do a pros and cons. So like pros, if I did do it, I could do like more exclusive stuff, like Patreon subscriber like live streams where you can like ask me stuff. And I thought about doing like a kind of Patreon like exclusive podcast, which is more like me talking, because obviously I don't have like a lot of just me episodes at the moment. So maybe I could do that, and then like also do like colouring sheets that people could download and print out at home, and like Q&As and polls, and obviously like write more like blog posts and stuff on it. So yeah, I'm not sure. Like those are kind of the pros, and then like the cons would obviously be like charging people stuff, because at the moment I don't charge for like people seeing my stuff or hearing my voice. Any money that I would get, I would kind of pump back into like, you know, podcast stuff and like 21 Sensory stuff, obviously. So I don't know how I feel about charging people for stuff. I don't know like how many, like if I was to do it, like how many tiers I would set up, because you can have like different like levels and different like monthly like prices. So I'd obviously do like maybe like a £1 or £2 tier, and then maybe like a £3 or £4 tier maybe. So like I'm not talking like obviously like £8 to £10 a month, like not like, you know, like Spotify subscription or level, anything like that. But yeah, it's something that I'm like have thought about, and I've seen like a load of creators do it really well. And a lot more like autistic creators as well have started like Patreons up, and I think it's like a really interesting way of like sharing behind the scenes stuff, which I do share on my Instagram stories a lot. But I like the idea of being able to be like, I don't know, more like free with my content and not like have to almost like schedule it in. Like I feel like Patreons are more kind of like free flowing kind of share as you go sort of platform. So I've been thinking about it. I'd love to know your opinion, how you feel about Patreon, how much you'd be willing to pay, what you'd like to see from me maybe. Yeah, and maybe it's something I'll set up at some point. I think I'm probably going to wrap the podcast up here. I've talked for quite a long time. And this is going to be interesting for me to edit. I honestly, when I edit podcasts with like other people, they're like all the interviewees I've had on have been amazing, and like they never like stumble or like have, you know, large pauses and stuff like that. And I've always said like, you know, don't worry if you make mistakes, I can edit them out, etc., etc. But do you know who I spend most of my time editing? It's myself. I mess up my words so much, and I've had so many people comment being like, you say the same things a lot, like like and kind of. I'd say kind of a lot. I said just then. So I end up editing a lot of kind of and this is like and out a lot, and I don't realise that I do it without listening back to myself, and I'm like, damn it. why am I still saying these things? But you can't not say so yes, I'll have fun editing this, I'm sure. So yeah, end of the podcast. Thank you very much for listening. If you listen this far, you deserve an award, badge, medal combo, because wow. You've listened to me for like many minutes. So what can I plug at the end of this podcast? It's important to do that, I think. If you like listening to me, hearing my voice, I have a TikTok, I have a YouTube channel. They're both at 21 Sensory or 21 Sensory, just search for them. I'll put them in the show notes. And obviously this podcast, thank you very much for listening. Feel free to review it. I'd love that on Apple Podcasts. If you're interested in what I get up to on a kind of daily life sort of vibe, at 21 and Sensory is my Instagram. I post quite a lot on my stories, and I post like weekly in terms of like normal Instagram posts. So yeah, if you're interested in me and what I'm getting up to, that's probably the best social media. I do also have Twitter, which is at 21 Sensory. Basically, I'm at 21 Sensory everywhere. So if you want to see if I'm on social media, search that. Yeah, hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you very much for listening, and I will hopefully be back with another episode soon. Bye!